11:42 p.m. on a Tuesday in March, an ambulance pulled up to a quiet apartment complex on the east side of Dayton, Ohio. The call had come in as a possible cardiac event, an unresponsive male in Unit 14. Standard, routine, the kind of call paramedics handle a dozen times a week, but this night was not routine. Pay close attention to the paramedic who pauses in the hallway. Watch how she tilts her head. Watch how she stops moving entirely. Her name is not the story. But what she heard is. 24 hours earlier, a young woman named Serena Calloway had been getting ready for work. Serena was 26 years old. She'd grown up in Springfield, Ohio, the middle child of 3, raised by a mother who worked double shifts at a distribution warehouse and a father who coached Little League on weekends. She was the first in her family to finish a 4-year degree, communications, Wright State University, class of 2021. She kept her diploma in a frame above her desk, not out of arrogance, but because her mother had cried when they hung it there, and Serena didn't want to forget that moment. She had recently taken a job as a medical billing coordinator at a mid-size healthcare management firm in Dayton. She'd been there 8 months. Her supervisor had described her as dependable, warm, and precise. She had just been approved for a small promotion. She had told her younger sister about it on Sunday. She had laughed about finally being able to afford her own parking spot. Serena lived alone in a 1-bedroom apartment in a converted brick building called Ashford Court. She had decorated it carefully, plants on every windowsill, a gallery wall of film photographs, a second-hand reading chair she had reupholstered herself in a deep, rust-colored fabric. The apartment smelled like cedar and candle wax. She had one known concern in her life. His name was Desmond Achebe. Desmond Achebe was 31 years old. He had come to the United States from Lagos, Nigeria at the age of 14, part of a family relocation that followed his father's work visa. He had grown up in Columbus, attended 2 years of community college, and cycled through a series of jobs in logistics, food delivery, and most recently, private maintenance contracting. On the surface, Desmond presented as affable. Neighbors remembered him as quiet. Former co-workers recalled he rarely caused trouble. What those people did not know, and what investigators would later document in exhaustive detail, was that Desmond Achebe had a pattern. He had dated Serena Calloway for 11 months, beginning in the spring of the previous year. The relationship had ended in January, when Serena told him quietly but firmly that she didn't see a future for them. She had been kind about it. She had been careful. He had not accepted it. In the 8 weeks following the breakup, Serena had reported 3 incidents to Dayton police. A figure outside her building at 2 a.m. A phone that rang 17 times in a single hour from a number she didn't recognize. A handwritten note slipped beneath her apartment door that said only, "You don't mean it." A temporary protection order had been filed on February 28th. It had been served. It had been signed. It had not been enough. On the night of March 11th, Serena Calloway finished her shift at 6 p.m. She stopped at a grocery on the way home, picked up ingredients for a pasta dish she'd been making since college. She texted her mother at 7:14 p.m. Her mother's response, a string of heart emojis, was the last message in Serena's received folder. At 8:30 p.m., the app on her phone that managed her building's front door showed that the entrance had been accessed with a resident code. The log would later confirm it was not her code. It was the television. By 10 p.m., it was the television. By 10 p.m., Serena Calloway's lights were on. Her door was locked from the inside. Her phone was silent. The call that brought paramedics to Ashford Court had nothing to do with Serena. A 72-year-old man named Gerald Purcell lived in Unit 14, directly below her apartment. His daughter, Christine Purcell, had called 911 after reaching him for their nightly check-in call and hearing him slurring his words before the line went dead. Christine lived 40 minutes away. She had called the building's emergency line. She had done everything right. Paramedics Dana Ochoa and Roy Stennett arrived at 11:42 p.m. they were met by the building's overnight maintenance worker, who let them in with a pass key. Gerald Purcell was conscious but disoriented. A mild transient ischemic attack. Preliminary assessment suggested manageable, stable. Dana Ochoa stayed with Mr. Purcell while Roy gathered equipment from the ambulance. She was recording vitals when she heard it. Not from Mr. Purcell's apartment. From above. A sound so faint, she almost dismissed it. A rhythmic, shallow exhalation. Controlled, deliberate. The sound of someone trying very hard not to be heard breathing. Dana Ochoa had been a paramedic for 9 years. She had heard that sound once before, in a situation she had never publicly discussed. She did not hesitate. She called Dayton PD at 11:51 p.m. Patrol officers Tomas Ibarra and Candace Fleming arrived within 6 minutes. The door to Unit 13, directly above Mr. Purcell, was locked. The light beneath the door was on. No one answered when officers knocked. When they announced their presence a second time, the light went off. The door was breached at 11:59 p.m. What officers found inside would take investigators hours to fully document. Serena Calloway was bound, gagged, and locked inside her own bedroom closet. She was conscious. She had been there for approximately 3 hours. She had injuries consistent with a physical assault, bruising across her forearms, lacerations on her wrist where she had worked against a restraint. Her face was wet. When the closet door opened and the light hit her, she did not cry out. She simply said, "I knew someone would come." She had been counting on it. Desmond Achebe was found 40 feet away, in Serena's bathroom, crouched behind the door. He was holding her phone. He had been in the process of composing a text to her mother, a message designed to explain that Serena would be unreachable for a few days. A work trip. Nothing to worry about. He had not finished sending it. He was taken into custody without resistance. He said nothing to officers at the scene. He said nothing in the patrol vehicle. He would say very little for the next 4 days. The investigation that followed was, in the language of law enforcement, a case study in digital premeditation. Detectives with the Dayton PD's Crimes Against Persons unit, led by Sergeant Willa Drummond, a 15-year veteran who had worked trafficking-adjacent cases for the better part of a decade, began pulling Achebe's phone records within hours of his arrest. What they found was not impulsive. Achebe had conducted research. He had monitored Serena's location data through a shared app they had never formally disconnected. He had noted her schedule. He had identified a 90-minute window on Tuesday evenings when the building's front camera was partially obstructed by a maintenance scaffolding that had been up since January. He had used that window with precision. The maintenance scaffolding had been scheduled for removal on March 14th. Achebe had moved on March 11th. Beyond that, his laptop contained 3 months of search history, Serena's address, her workplace, her mother's address in Springfield. A folder of downloaded photographs, all from Serena's public social media, organized into subfolders by date, a document that described, in plain language, a plan. Sergeant Drummond described the laptop's contents to a detective colleague in one sentence. It was a manual. What Desmond Achebe had not planned for was Gerald Purcell's daughter calling at exactly the right moment. He had not planned for an attentive paramedic with 9 years of experience and a memory she couldn't shake. He had not planned for the specific acoustic quality of a brick building's floors, or for the fact that Dana Ochoa had spent 2 minutes longer in Unit 14 than any other call that week because she wanted to make sure Mr. Purcell's pressure had stabilized before she left him. Every plan had a gap. Dana Ochoa had found his. Desmond Achebe was charged with aggravated burglary, felonious assault, kidnapping, and violation of a protection order. Additional charges related to stalking and telecommunications harassment were filed by the Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office in the weeks that followed. He entered a not guilty plea. His defense argued context, an emotionally volatile period, a relationship that had ended badly, no prior criminal record. They characterized the night in question as a confrontation that had spiraled out of control. The jury considered those arguments for 4 hours. They rejected them entirely. Desmond Achebe was sentenced to 22 years in the Ohio Department of Rehabilitation and Correction. He will not be eligible for parole consideration until 2046. Serena Calloway spent 3 days in the hospital. She had no permanent physical injuries. The other kind take longer. She moved out of Ashford Court. She did not return to her old apartment, not even to collect everything herself. Her mother and sister handled most of it. The rust-colored reading chair made the move. The diploma, still in its frame, made the move. The plants, most of them, did not survive the transition. Serena spent the following year working with a therapist who specialized in trauma from intimate partner violence. She has spoken publicly once at a legislative hearing in Columbus in the fall of that same year, where she testified in support of a bill that would mandate electronic monitoring for individuals served with protection orders involving documented stalking behavior. The bill passed. It took her less than 4 minutes to say what needed to be said. She did not cry during the testimony. She had already done that. Dana Ochoa returned to work the following Thursday. She declined media interviews. When her supervisor suggested she apply for a departmental commendation, she declined that too. She told Sergeant Drummond, "I just heard something that didn't fit." That was all she said about it. Gerald Purcell was discharged from the hospital on March 13th, 2 days after the night his apartment became the reason everything unraveled. His daughter, Christine, drove him home. He asked on the way about the young woman upstairs. Christine told him Serena was going to be okay. He nodded and looked out the window and didn't say anything else. Serena Calloway's promotion paperwork had been sitting on her supervisor's desk the night she was found. It was processed the following week. She accepted it. Her parking spot is the third from the entrance. She chose it deliberately. She wanted to be close to the door.